down. Our esteemed guests are about to enter the room. Greetings, greetings to everyone, and I hope that we have begun with the online registration process. Please make sure that you have registered. Good afternoon once again. Sanbonani. Aw molweni. Dumelang. Abusheng. Ah. Hello, everyone. Warm greetings to everyone gathered here today. It is an honor to welcome you to the Dr. Tlou Cholo's 4th Annual Legacy Lecture. That deserves a round of applause. And we are held under the theme, Lessons of Tlou Cholo's Generation. Have they been betrayed? Such a thought-provoking theme. And we cannot wait for our speakers to really unpack this theme broadly. I'm just notified that when the executives come in or our esteemed guests enter the room, will be requested to all stand so that we can acknowledge them accordingly. May we all arise, may we all stand. May we clap hands for them, a round of applause as they enter the room. Thank you, everyone, and we may be seated. My name is Zamangwane Zikali, and it is of a great pleasure and deep humility that I serve as your program director today. And this gathering is proudly hosted through a collaborative effort between TUT and the Dr. Tlou Cholo's Foundation. And what an honor it is that we are hosted in this beautiful venue, the State Theatre, a place that is known for celebrating arts, culture, and history. So it is through this collaborative effort that we are gathered here to honor and to celebrate a legend, Dr. Tlou. Amen. A round of applause for that. Before I proceed with my program, allow me to acknowledge our esteemed guests. In our gathering today, we are honored to have the Minister of Higher Education, Buti Manamele. Can we clap hands for him? We appreciate your presence. We are also honored to have in the principal of TUT, Professor Tinyiko Maluleke. Allow me to also acknowledge the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Professor Maseremule. You are greeted. I would also like to recognize the President of Tlou Cholo Foundation, Dr. Gwen Ramokopa. Chairperson of the Humanities Alumni, Mr. Kanyiso Sonti, you are greeted. The council members of the university, the members of the EMC, the executive deans, the HODs, the students of TUT, alumni, the industry partners, and everyone, the friends of TUT, you are all greeted. And finally, it will be amiss of me not to convey a special greeting to the man and the family of the man whom we are gathered here to celebrate and to honor. Special greetings to Dr. Cholo and his family and even the community of Soshanguve. You know, when I observe the life of Dr. Cholo, I cannot help but to see this extraordinary leadership qualities, of which is the posture of a servant. He is a great leader, but who possesses a heart of a servant. And if there's one thing that we can learn as the current generation from him, it is the importance and the value of being a servant. Because if you are a leader but do not possess a heart of a servant, it is easy to pursue power and personal gain. But now, in the world that is constantly shifting and where we are faced with so many challenges as the youth, it is important that we raise leaders who are going to liberate our communities through moral and ethical leadership. So, true leadership, as I am learning from the life of Dr. Cholo, leadership is about sacrifice, service, and doing what is right, even when no one is seeing. Leadership is about speaking out the things that are not right. It is about sacrificing your own comforts for the comforts of the masses and the comforts of the generation. So I would say that we are a very fortunate audience to sit in this room and get to learn about this legend, Dr. Cholo, who has really demonstrated what it means to take this baton of leadership and becoming a true leader. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to open this session with a very unified note. We are going to be singing a national anthem, but I'm going to invite the TUT choir to come and lead us through this item. And while they are ascending the podium, it is exciting to know that Dr. Cholo will be turning 100 years this year, and we thank God for his life. May I please invite the TUT choir to please ascend the podium and help us and lead us through the rendition of the national anthem. Over to you. of applause. We may all be seated, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. I promise you this tonight or today's program is going to be very insightful, full of knowledge and wisdom. And I plead with you to please listen attentively. If you can, take notes because towards the end of the deliveries, I'm going to open an opportunity for a question and answer session. So now allow me to humbly invite Professor Tinyiko Maluleke to officially open this gathering for us. Professor Tinyiko Maluleke, you are welcome.
It's a long walk to the podium. I'm just warning those who will come after me. It's a bit too high. If you can put it down a little bit. I am tall, but not that tall. Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Mr. Butimanamela, Dr. Tlou Cholo, members of TUT Council, notably those who are present among us. I have seen Dr. Ntsiki Chainga. Mr. Mashinini has promised to be here. I also know that the ISRC president, Mr. Banele Ntsele, and several other ISRC members are also in our midst. Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa, former Chancellor of the Tshwane University of Technology, Professor Masrumulle Masrumulle, Executive Dean of the Faculty of Humanities. I'm not sure if Professor Nalini Moodley Dyer, who is the Executive Dean of our Faculty of Art and Design, is in our midst. I wish to recognize Dr. Sibongiseni Mkhize, CEO of the State Theatre, Dr. Santa Yoon, the CFO of the State Theatre. But among us is also Dr. Tlou Cholo, author of the riveting book on Dr. Tlou Cholo, titled Heeding the Call to Fight for the Fatherland, the Life and Struggle of Tlou Cholo. 14 years since its publication in 2011, that book of Dr. Setumu has given birth to an equally riveting musical on the life and times of Dr. Tlou Cholo, titled The Fatherland, which premiered either yesterday or is actually premiering today right here at the State Theatre. I'd like to recognize among us the presence of Mr. Aubrey Sekhabi, director of the musical Fatherland. We acknowledge him as well as some of the actors in that musical, such as Siyabonga Gazu, Boitumelo Munchiwa, Malebu Kekana, amongst others, as well as assistant directors Untlametsi Masilo and Vusi Africa associate producer Princess Sichele, as well as Lisigo Muripe, the arts and costume administrator. Did I call The Fatherland merely a musical and a stage play? No. It is much better than that. It is an immersion, a tangible virtual reality on stage that will transport us from Hamatlala via Makala to GP Hostel and to the kitchens and gardens of Germiston suburbs, where Tlou Cholo worked when he first arrived in Johannesburg, through to the Union Building Corporation, later to be called Engineering Building Supply in Jeepistown, where TT cut his teeth as a trade unionist, ending up a guerrilla and an underground operative all through 1962 to 1972. During the latter time, TT spent time in such countries as Botswana, Tanzania, and Zambia. He went on to receive military training in Russia and China, among other places. But alas, shortly after returning home in 1972, TT was arrested and jailed, ending up being thrown into Robben Island, where he languished for the next 16 years. But in 1988, he walked out a free man. What a life! What a life of gallant struggle. And I'm not issuing these accolades just because this fourth Dr. Chulo lecture and the production, The Fatherland, are part of a historic and unique partnership between the Tlou Cholo Foundation, Tshwane University of Technology, and State Theatre. I'm not praising the play because it is womaned and manned by many TUT alumni, actors, and directors. I am pouring out these accolades because I am in awe of Tlou Cholo, the liberation icon, the living legend, and our guest of honor today. What a privilege it is that our lives have been allowed to overlap with that of Dr. Tlou Cholo. And I'm not saying these things merely because he is a TUT alumnus, awarded the degree Doctor of Public Affairs honoris causa in 2018. Rather, the greater honor was on the Tshwane University of Technology to be associated with someone whose spirit the apartheid regime could not kill, hard as they tried. Of all the stellar TUT honoris causa honorees, there is none more distinguished than Dr. Tlou Cholo, recipient of the highest honor in his own political party, the ANC, is Twalandwe, and recipient of the National Order of Luthuli in silver. TT, the Cholo family and clan, Honorable Minister Manamela, TUT staff, labor formations, students, student leaders, ladies and gentlemen, in my capacity as Principal and Vice Chancellor of the Tshwane University of Technology, it is my greatest honor to welcome you to the fourth Dr. Tlou Cholo Annual Legacy Lecture. It is my singular honor to invite and welcome you to the official debut of the musical titled The Fatherland. Whatever you do, please do not miss the opportunity to watch that musical. It will go on until the 2nd of November. Come and be blown away as you watch Terence Ngwila in the role of Tlou Cholo. The musical will set your soul alight. The Fatherland is an experience not to be missed. And this fourth Dr. Cholo Legacy Lecture will move you. Thank you very much.
Halala, Dr. Cholo, halala. Halala, Dr. Cholo, halala. Thank you so much. Are you feeling welcomed now? Back in my culture, after you've been welcomed, you're allowed to take off your coat and take off your hat and dance. So now that you have been welcomed, I hope that you will be free to sing and dance. With that being said, may I please welcome the TUT choir to render an item so that we can just enjoy and sing along with them and dance. Welcome TUT choir with a round of applause, please. Let us clap hands for the TUT choir. I thought we were going to allulate and sing along with them. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, TUT choir. And now we continue with our program with a message of support from the distinguished leader, the president of the Tlou Cholo Foundation, Dr. Gwen Ramakuba. With a round of applause, let us welcome Doc.
Thank you very much, Program Director, beautiful Mayor Zamaskali. I would also want to acknowledge before us our hosts, gracious hosts from this State Theatre, jointly with the University, TUT University. I want to acknowledge Professor Tinyuko Maluleka, the Vice Chancellor and Principal of TUT, an institution which I had very significant relations with and appreciated its immense role that it plays in our country, and all that the delegation that is here from this prestigious university. I must say that TUT, it is a hidden gem. And even to date, I know that South Africans do not know enough about TUT to celebrate the work that has been done across various sectors, whether it's built environment, whether it's the social sector, as well as the arts, like where we are here, and that the university was the first in the country to have a fully fledged faculty of digital economy and digitalization. I also would like to remind the university just to put more weight on who they represent, and that they must hold high that medal, that this is the largest contact university in our country, South Africa, and it services many young people who come from poor areas. I will not go much into that part of it because I have the Honorable Minister of Higher Education with us, whose responsibility is to take us through the journey of higher education, where we are, and indeed whether we are upholding or betraying the legacy of Dr. Tlou Cholo. I want to acknowledge amongst us as well the family of Tlou Cholo. I've seen quite a number of them before we started, as well as the Tlou Cholo Foundation. I also want to acknowledge the Dean of, the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, which hosts the honorary doctorate that was awarded to Dr. Tlou Cholo by the university. I want to acknowledge all the organizations that are here from the community, especially the young people, because these lectures are really there to inspire the young people so that they can take it with them as a journey, as they journey into the future. I want to acknowledge the political parties that are here, including the ANC, which is the political party, the home of Dr. Cholo and its leagues. I also want to acknowledge amongst us members of society, civil society, members of the clergy, as well as those from the private sector who are here to also celebrate this moment of a centurion, Dr. Tlou Cholo, and to also learn from his life as he remains a blessing to us. It is indeed my pleasure and privilege and honor, great honor, to offer a message of support and critical engagement at this fourth annual lecture celebrating the life of Dr. Tlou Cholo, referred to as the Legacy Lecture. We gather today to honor a generation of the selflessness, the generation of Dr. Tlou Cholo and his generation, who contributed immensely to the attainment of our democracy and freedom. This generation enshrines our national aspiration in the Freedom Charter and the Constitution, which calls for participatory democracy and mandates us to, I quote, improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person, close quote. And to, I quote, establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights, a close quote. The theme of this lecture demands our immediate and candid attention. And this is the lessons of the Tlou Cholo generation. Have they been betrayed? I must say that I did write to the organizers of this event, and I asked that was it really befitting for us to talk about betrayal whilst we are in a celebratory mood of 100 years of this centurion, this veteran of our struggle, and indeed who has recently been awarded Siaparangwe, the highest level of appreciation and recognition of the contribution to our people that the ANC awards. I must say I didn't receive any feedback, so I had to stay with it. In preparing for this message to the organizers and to us, all of us that will be listening, I thought it would be best to talk about the weight of the unfinished work. Because indeed, it can't be denied that the resilience of Dr. Cholo and his generation was worth the sacrifices they endured, some paying the ultimate price with their lives. Dr. Cholo is the only living ANC, MK, the real MK veteran, trained in China. And together with the veterans from APLA and other liberation movements, their journey has been captured in a joint booklet that was revealed jointly by South Africa and the Republic of China to acknowledge that their journey was a journey of tenacity, a journey of sacrifice, a journey of determination to leave this world a better world for the generation that would come after them. We acknowledge and appreciate that South Africa is far better because of these sacrifices. The constitutionally protected human rights dispensation we're in, the extensive comprehensive social security net that South Africans enjoy, and the vast infrastructure and institutional advancement that South Africa is respected for far and wide. These are the evidence before us that their sacrifices were worth it. Whilst we celebrate that they are still with us, and despite all the progress and the corrective actions that have been taken by our country's leaders and members of society where errors were made, there are challenges that still linger on and that require sharp focus as we account to the legacy of this generation of Dr. Tlou Cholo. And that is why we must then deal with the question of whether this generation is betrayed, can be betrayed, and what can we do to mitigate this betrayal, possible betrayal, and ensure that corrective steps are taken. It's no question that the persistent mass joblessness remains an unacceptable structural failure of our democracy. Our unemployment rates that are above 32%, with youth unemployment alarmingly high at 45.5%. We face persistent economic constraints, with the 2023 GDP growth revised down to a mere 0.6% where we are, and the past two quarter GDP growth rates as presented by the Stats SA, very, very small to mention. A rate insufficient to eradicate poverty. The high cost of living continues to press hardest upon our most vulnerable citizens and the middle strata that are supposed to be at the center of what we refer to as the black tax, not being able to even support those in the families. As we acknowledge the failures in governance in a number of areas, and I must say across the three spheres, particularly at the municipal level, which threaten national infrastructure stability and the advancement of our society, we also are wrestling with crime and corruption that have reached alarming levels and other malfeasance. We're also facing the resurfacing of severe malnutrition, which were eradicated in the first decade of our democracy. Water shortages is also rearing its head in both rural and urban areas, threatening our very democratic advancements that we've made in the earlier years. These challenges confirm that the task of economic emancipation, the core mandate of the struggle generation, is far from complete. And these challenges present us with proof that unless we reboot and reflect and review where we are and what needs to be done urgently now and in a sustainable way into the future, it is possible to betray the legacy of the generation of Dr. Cholo. We must be encouraged, though, that we are seeing renewal and turnarounds in critical areas where he himself, Dr. Tlou Cholo, raised concerns. Many of you may not be aware that he still reads newspapers, he listens to news, and he calls us from time to time to account on behalf of whomsoever, wherever in the country, as those associated with him. We want to welcome the ESCOM turnaround that we are seeing before us, having also achieved a profit for the first time in 8 years. We also welcome the recovery of Transnet, which is so critical to support our economy as a part of the logistics network. We must also applaud PRASA when after 9 years, for the first time, it achieved a clean audit. It does indeed say to us, there was and there were and there may still be elements of betrayal. If we look at what we hear from the Madlanga Commission, from the other previous commissions, the people who are arrested for stealing from the common purse of the public, the lies and all the wrong things that are done, especially at the leadership level, we indeed can say it is possible. When we are told that in 1994, we were talking about gender-based violence, and today in 2025, we talk about gender-based violence and femicide, with children not excluded from the wrath of the scourge. Then we know that it is possible to betray this legacy. The mandate of the foundation is to ensure that there is a critical review of the journey that we are traversing and analysis of whether we're still on track. Democracy is an ongoing process that must be managed, and its gains must be defended not only by government, but by all of us committed citizenry. This is a moral imperative of the Tlou Cholo Foundation. Dr. Tlou Cholo had a farm that he was tilling, and the produce thereof he was selling to the nearest shops so that he can still raise income to also fund himself and fund projects in the community. The foundation values and principles articulated through our focus on education, technology, and development are perfectly aligned also with the needs of the moment. We continue to face critical shortages and so many other things. I want to conclude so that we give one another a chance for the Q&A by saying that today's lecture, let it be a clarion call that ensures that we remember what President Nelson Mandela advised us. And I quote, "As long as many of our people still live in utter poverty, as long as children still live under plastic covers, as long as many of our people are still without jobs, no South African should rest and wallow in the joy of freedom." This is the task of our generation. Let the Tlou Cholo legacy stand at the forefront of this participatory democracy, active citizenry, and ensuring accountability for all leaders. Yes, it is difficult. Not all of us march to the same drumbeat, same prophet of pain. Others peddle lies and divisions, hoping to lift themselves by pushing others down. We must remember the days of the swart gevaar, the days of black-on-black violence, the days of those that want to see what we can fight ourselves, amongst ourselves about. Let us denounce any divisions. Let us pull together, because there is no power that is beyond unity. Unity is strength. We also call on the middle strata that is a beneficiary of the legacy of Tlou Cholo, not to sit back, but to participate, to contribute, to handhold, and as Charlotte Maxeke said, to lift as we rise. I wish this fourth annual legacy lecture well. and all of us as we celebrate the centenary achievement of Dr. Tlou Cholo. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramakupa, for that inspiring words of support. And indeed, we do appreciate the contributions and the sacrifices of the Cholo generation, because it is through these sacrifices that we are benefiting freedom this day. Ladies and gentlemen, now allow me to welcome Mr. Kanyi Sosonto, the chairperson of Humanities Alumni Chapter. With a round of applause, can we welcome Mr. Sonti?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say I am Kanyi Sosonti, not Sonto, program director. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me first start by greeting the Minister of Higher Education, Honorable Mr. Budimanamel. English just left me there a bit. He's my boss, so I'm a bit scared in my other space. We appreciate your presence here. Let me also take this opportunity to greet the Vice Chancellor of the university, Prof. Maluleke. We always appreciate your presence as the alumni chapter. Let me take the opportunity as well to greet the President and our former Chancellor, Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa. Thank you for that moving speech as well. Let me take the opportunity to greet the person whose dream is this, Prof. Maseremula. Also is one of those that I'm scared to speak in front of. He was my lecturer at first year. I was a bit problematic then. I'm better now, Prof. I can tell you. Let me take the opportunity to greet the CEO of State Theatre, the CFO of State Theatre as well, the author of the Fatherland musical, and the person who wrote and contributed to the biography of Dr. Cholo, Mr. Situmo. Let me take the opportunity to greet the Cholo family and appreciate that they allowed us to invite them here today and be able to speak on the life of this great person. I will not want to mess up the protocol, program director. Those that came before me have observed it, and I will follow the same. It is a profound honor and privilege for us to stand before you this evening on behalf of the University of the Tshwane University of Technology Humanities Alumni Chapter. It's a very important occasion that we are invited to. The 4th annual Dr. Tlou Cholo Legacy Lecture, held under the deeply reflective and challenging theme, Lessons of the Tlou Cholo Generation. I will not speak on whether they have betrayed or we have betrayed them. I'm sure the minister will speak around that. But it's a very reflective theme on a Saturday evening, Minister. This theme compels us to reflect honestly and courageously on whether we, as the beneficiaries of the sacrifices made by the Tlou Cholo generation, have lived up to their example. Have we honored the values of sacrifice, integrity, justice, and freedom for which they fought for? Dr. Tlou Cholo's life teaches us that education without justice is incomplete. Freedom without purpose is hollow. Today, we do not merely honor his legacy with words, but with a renewed institutional commitment to embody the values he stood for. To the Minister of Higher Education, your leadership continues to provide a vital framework for institutions such as TUT to pursue inclusivity, accessibility, and academic excellence. Your presence here, Minister, this afternoon reaffirms the importance of the legacy we celebrate and the future we must build. And I must say, Minister, we've always said when we're debating who must be the speaker, we said we want young people to speak to young people about the legacy of important old people. I want to repeat this, Minister. We said we want young people to speak to young people about an important legacy of respected old people. So your presence here is highly appreciated. Let's give Minister a good round of applause. As I've said, and speakers before me have said, we must give a special recognition to Dr. Situmo, whose biography of Dr. Tlou has preserved the life of a true South African hero. Your scholarship ensures that Dr. Cholo's story will inspire generations to come. But it's important that as a chapter, we must also recognize some of our own people within the Faculty of Humanities, particularly Mr. Malisela Maubani and his co-author, Ms. Shalati Toban. She's been working around as a marshal today, but she's a co-author, who have made sure that since 2021, they keep the memory and the spirit of Dr. Cholo burning. Let's give them a good round of applause, colleagues. As a chapter, ladies and gentlemen, we were formally established in 2023. We serve as a critical bridge between the past, present, and the future of this university alumni. Our chapter is dedicated to mobilizing the strength of our alumni community in support of students, the institution, and the society at large. Our first major initiative was during the celebration of TUT's 20th anniversary, Vice Chancellor, in June last year. During this landmark occasion, we committed ourselves to document the rich history of our university, to honor those who paid the ultimate price for justice and access, including the courageous student leaders such as Hendrik Nkuna, Benjamin Pehla, Katlego Monareng. Their sacrifices must never be forgotten. They fought for a principle, they fought for principle, dignity, and the right to education. Forgetting their names will be a betrayal of the lessons of the Tlou Cholo generation. It was with great pride that I also, Minister, announced that this year in 2025, before the year ends, we will hold the Nkuna lecture, and it will be in Soshanguve. I think we need to have a good round of applause for that. The lecture in itself will serve as a vital platform to reflect on student activism, leadership, and the ongoing struggle for transformation within higher education space. The faculty, Minister, and we must be proud of this, the Faculty of Humanities is a home to over 73,000 alumni, representing more than 1/3 of all TUT graduates. This is a powerful network of educators, public servants, artists, activists, and leaders who are committed to shaping a better South Africa. Our contribution as a faculty is growing this government, Dr. Ramohope. Let's give a round of applause to that, colleagues. We're singing our own praises. Our mission as an alumni chapter is to mobilize this network, not for recognition, but for impactful services. I also want to extend my sincere gratitude to you, Prof. Everything that we've been able to do has been your dream. It has been your vision that we must be able to document our rich history as a university. We must be able to track all our alumni. This chapter that you lead, the faculty that you lead, has produced director generals for this country. I sometimes smile when I even see General Mkwanazi saying he's from TUT and say, Nazia is ours. So it's your vision that we start to recognize the work that TUT has done in shaping our future. I always make this example, Prof. I am from Kailicha. Without you recognizing and lecturing us at first year, I would have been a gangster somewhere in Kailicha, but we are here today speaking in front of you and ministers. Looking forward, we are proud to indicate that we are finalizing the Tshwane University of Technology alumni strategy for 2026 to 2035. This strategy sets a roadmap for alumni engagements through 5 key objectives: well-coordinated engagement, promoting youth entrepreneurship, intentional tracking of our alumni, mobilizing of financial and in-kind resources, and improving graduate employability. Further to this, tonight marks an official announcement that, and I'm taking what the thank you speech would have been saying. The official announcement of the Alumni Fund, which will be soon officially launched at Soshanguve campus. This fund will provide the financial backbone to enable alumni office and chapters to fulfill their strategic objectives, including supporting financially needy students, mentoring programs, and advancing TUT's vision as a digital advanced, globally competitive university through its Alumni Space app, a communication portal to be launched in the coming few weeks. I call on all the alumni of the People's University to contribute to this fund in whatever way they can. Every effort, no matter how small, is a step toward honoring those who sacrifice much of our opportunity. In closing, I want to return to the question that is posed by this evening's theme. What lessons have we learned from the Tlou Cholo generations? We can never answer this question with words alone. We must answer with our actions, by supporting students, by preserving our history, by leading with integrity, and by giving back intentionally and wholeheartedly to those in need. Let us not betray that legacy. Let us answer with service and servitude, with purpose and with renewed commitment. I thank you, Ndiabulela. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sonti, and apologies for mispronunciation of your surname. Thank you so much, and indeed, we are led. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite again our Vice Chancellor and Principal of TUT, Professor Tlou Maluleke, who will introduce our keynote speaker. A round of applause for Prof.
Honorable Buti Khwaridi Manamela is our Minister of Higher Education and Training. He has been a member of Parliament since 2009 and a member of the South African Communist Party Central Committee since 2012. He was elected into the ANC National Executive Committee in 2022. From 2014 to 2017, he was the Deputy Minister in the Presidency. And then from 2017 to 2029, he became the Deputy Minister of Higher Education. From 2019 until 2024, he served as the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation. He holds a master's degree in public policy and development management from Wits University, and he studied digital electronics at the Tshwane North Tibet College. He is the former Deputy President of the South African Students' Congress, SASCO. He is the former President of the South African College Student Association and was elected National Secretary of the Young Communist League of South Africa, which he has served since 2003 until 2014. The Department of Higher Education and Training is fortunate to have at its helm someone as experienced as the Honorable Buti Manamela, a man who hails from the village of Pahameng in Modimolle. I have a sense that many young students and youths in general in this country take the minister's name, Buti, literally. They truly believe he is their brother, Abuti, literally. Because I have known no minister who advocates and pleads for students as hard as Minister Manamela. almost all the calls I've ever received from him over my long stay in higher education have had to do with this or that student who needs help with registration, with funding, with admission to exams, or release of results. The thing is, he does not even know these students personally, but he calls and pleads their case with vice chancellors and registrars, or he has been doing that for many years. That's the caliber of the patriot that our Minister of Higher Education and Training is. When I learned that as a youngster in Modimolle, he was an Anglican altar boy, then I realized why Manamela was a deep and complex communist with a big heart. The only other communist I can compare him with is George Mashamba. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our Minister Buti Manamela.
Thank you, Prof, for that generous introduction. It's quite a long walk to get here, so that's why when people get here, they decide to speak for as long as they walked to the podium. So you have to maximize the benefit of having walked here. Good afternoon to all of you, the important people who have been acknowledged by the Vice Chancellor when he was welcoming us, but more importantly, the celebrant, the centenarian, I think that's the proper word, Ntate Tlou Cholo, our TG, Dr. Gwen Ramogopa, and also the chairperson of the Humanities Alumni Chapter, Mr. Kanyiso Sonti, the Executive Dean, Prof. Mashupie, but more importantly, the family, the Cholo family. And thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to celebrate this giant. And I think also the TUT Humanities alumni who are here present and those who may be joining us wherever they are. It is an honor to deliver this 4th annual Dr. Tlou Cholo Legacy Lecture. It's such a huge responsibility on my shoulder. I'm not even half the age of Dr. Chulo, but I thought I should accept this responsibility of celebrating his centenary. A freedom fighter, was born in the mid-20s in Hamatlala, represent a generation of liberation stalwarts whose sacrifices won us democracy. He joined the African National Congress during the 1950s Defiance Campaign, co-founded the South African Trade Unions, SACTU, and became a member of both the ANC and the South African Communist Party. As one of the first Umkhonto weSizwe guerrillas, Chulo helped establish the legendary Luthuli detachment together with Chris Hani and many others, and endured 16 years on Robben Island for attempting to infiltrate apartheid South Africa with freedom fighters. His selfless sacrifice in the struggle against apartheid and exceptional leadership in the trade union movement earned him the Order of Luthuli Silver. I think you've seen, those of you who came early, the picture that was beamed with him in full regalia as Isitwalandwe Siaparankwe, and also the Order of Luthuli in silver this year for outstanding contributions to liberation. So as we reflect on lessons of the Tlou Cholo generation, have they been betrayed? We must reflect on who he is, where he belonged to, what organizations he was part of, and whether, the lessons that we need to learn, and whether has there really been betrayal. But importantly, we must assess whether we, the successors of that heroic generation, have upheld their values or have we faltered. That Cholo's generation believed deeply in a national democratic revolution, the struggle to create a non-racial, just, united, non-sexist democratic society. They built a powerful alliance of the people's movement, the ANC, the vanguard of the working class, the SACP, and the labor movement, SACTU, which ultimately became COSATU, to achieve that vision. If today we see signs of disunity, of ideological drift, or neglect of the people's needs, it raises this question: have we betrayed their legacy? I will argue that we must return to the basics that guided Cholo's generation. We must recenter the ANC's historic mission, rebuild the unity of our alliance, forge disciplined and selfless cadres, strengthen African and international solidarity, develop 21st century organizers, and empower our youth. By undertaking these tasks, we must reclaim the promise of the national democratic revolution and prove ourselves worthy of the trust that veterans like Dr. Cholo placed in future generations. His life epitomizes the core mission of the ANC as a national liberation movement. The ANC, founded in 1912 to unite the oppressed and spearhead the struggle for fundamental political, social, and economic change. Its key objective, reiterated for over a century, is to create a non-racial, non-sexist democratic society, liberating Africans in particular and Black people in general from political and economic bondage. This is the essence of the National Democratic Revolution, which seeks not only political freedom, but the social and economic emancipation, importantly, of the Black majority. And thanks to leaders like Tlou Cholo, the ANC led the fight against apartheid, mobilizing mass resistance and even taking up arms through Umkhonto weSizwe MK. Their efforts culminated in the 1994 democratic breakthrough, ending formal apartheid. Yet, freedom is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning. The question we face 30 years into democracy is whether the governing movement has stayed true to its founding ideals. In recent times, the ANC's image has been marred by internal factionalism, corruption, and obviously a drift, or what seemed to be can easily be interpreted as a drift from the people. We must urgently correct this by going back to basics, as I said, reasserting that the ANC, at its heart, a people's movement for liberation. This means returning to the Freedom Charter's vision: the people shall govern, the people shall share in the country's wealth, the doors of learning and culture shall be opened, there shall be houses, security, and comfort, as part of acknowledging the 70th anniversary of the Freedom Charter. It also means rekindling the fighting spirit against inequality and injustice that guided comrades like Cholo. We must regain we must remain center forward as champion of the poor and marginalized, placing their needs front and center, and we have to combat the sins that divert us and revive the culture of selfless public service. We must own values. The ANC's own values state that members must embody humility and selfless dedication to the struggle, concern for the will and interest of the people, or Batupili, and not use position of responsibility for self-enrichment or personal gain, as Tlou Cholo and his generation exemplified. By enforcing these values through strict discipline and accountability, we can restore the people's movement, and in general, people's liberation movements, as instruments of liberation that Tlou Cholo and his generation put their lives on the line for, and for our own freedom. And we only need to put our egos and comforts on the line, and that we have no excuse not to renew the ANC and the spirit of its revolution and the revolution that it has pursued. Yes, 30 years into democracy, we can only speak, but of most of the significant changes that have been effected up to date. We have, on record, radically changed the lives and the conditions of lives of our people. We can talk of how we've built huge infrastructure that connects communities and villages. We can speak of infrastructure, social infrastructure such as housing, social infrastructure such as electricity, water, and sanitation. We can also speak of access to education. I was saying to the media earlier today, speaking at the press, that one of the things that we must acknowledge is the fact that some of the interventions that we've made over the last 30 years are reflective of the kind of stability that we've seen over the years, and that we should not discount the many strides that have been made into 30 years into our democracy. The fact that the right to vote itself, and I think we've had about 13 elections since 1994. We should not take that for granted. There are countries which regressed immediately, post-independence, undermining the need for democratic participation. So those could be regarded now as, very basic rights that can be taken for granted. But the fact that we've consistently called on for elections, even when the ruling party was faced, with challenges, having lost in some of the areas, and of course, having dominated in some of the areas, there was no doubt that we have to continue with the democratic project. And yes, part of the bigger project, especially with what we've identified as the objectives of the National Democratic Revolution, has been building this unity, building this non-racial society, building this non-sexist society. It has had its own progress, but it has had also its own challenges. So we need to acknowledge that there has been progress, but also be the first one to acknowledge when there has been, some of the challenges, and speak amongst ourselves, but also in society and in memory of people such as Tlou Cholo, who have laid their lives, as I said, on the line in order to make sure that we get to where we're supposed to be. So there is that level of stability with its own challenges at state level, and similarly, certain challenges as it relates to our own organizations and the organizations that Tlou Cholo was part of. And one of the ways, and I want to focus briefly on this, one of the ways within which we believe that we can turn around is for us to be rebuilding a revolutionary cadre with ethical leadership. Comrade Cholo's story is not just one of political programs, but also of personal character. An organizer and a leader of great integrity, part of a disciplined cadre that put service before self. If we worry that we have betrayed his generation, much of that anxiety must come from the decline in the quality of our cadres and leaders in recent years. During the liberation struggle, cadres were molded through political education, underground training, and strict mentorship. They upheld principles like democratic centralism, criticism and self-criticism, and a code of conduct that frowned upon careerism and materialism. Today, unfortunately, we see a new breed of activists in our movement and in society, and even in public service, which is something that you as students of humanities should be concerned about, who are more concerned about, some far from selflessness and into self-promotion, obsessed instead with personal enrichment and factional battle. Without a good cadre, we cannot have good organizations. And without good organizations, we are doomed as a country. And this is the stark truth. We must therefore intensify the work of cadre development and ethical leadership renewal. And what does this entail? It means reviving political education at all levels and in all its forms. In your lecture halls, you need to see that which you are receiving and that which you are giving as part of this political education and also as part of building a cadre that we need in the public service. Your chairman or chairperson, Sonti, was saying that you have deployed, as humanities at TUT, a cadre in the public service, some of them who have been exemplary, probably some of them that you may not be proud of their action, depending on where you stand. But I think it's important that we see that as part of that political education at all levels. Secondly, we need to enforce discipline and accountability within our ranks as organizations, but also generally in society. A revolutionary movement must be able to police itself, or it loses moral authority. This means applying our codes of conduct fairly but firmly. There should be no holy cows. Those who tarnish the movement's image must face consequences, or else the entire organization's credibility suffers. We should revive practices such as regular self-criticism sessions. Some of those practices are what fixed the ANC and the broader national liberation movement in exile during Morogoro. Thirdly, we must cultivate ethical, service-oriented values in each and every member, and this should extend to each and every citizen. Various documents of our movement reminds us that members must behave in an exemplary way in day-to-day life and not use positions of responsibility for self-enrichment and self-promotions. Cadres should be humble, approachable, and honest. This was the ethic of Cholo's generation. Despite their seniority, they lived modestly amongst the people in Soshanguve and in the villages KwaGamatlala, always ready to listen, always ready to help. And we can take inspiration from the Chinese communist leader Mao Zedong, where Comrade Cholo also spent some time when he spoke about the creed of the mass line: serve the people, go to the people, learn from the people. And if every councillor, if every member of parliament, if every young leader in our movement and in society adopted this attitude, imagine how quickly the trust between citizens and the government would be restored. And within this set of the things that we need to do, we have to also emphasize quality over quantity, especially in recruitment, and not be obsessed with the notion of swelling the ranks and having membership roles if new members do not embrace the mission that people like Tlou Cholo had historically advanced. Tlou Cholo was not just an ANC or SACP or SACTU veteran. He is he is also a Pan-Africanist and internationalist. His journey took him across the continent and the world, from the guerrilla camps of Tanzania to training in the Soviet Union and China, always in pursuit of freedom for South Africa and the broader cause of humanity. We live in a rapidly changing global landscape, shifting geopolitics and its multipolarity, as some call it. New powers rising, old alliances being tested, and countries like South Africa often finding themselves pressured over their independent stance, for example, on Palestine, or on our non-aligned positions in great power conflicts. In this environment, one thing is clear: Africa must unite or we will be vulnerable. We face challenges from economic neocolonialism or climate change to external political meddling, and the only way in which we can survive and safeguard our sovereignty and development is through African unity and solidarity. It is sobering. The cradle of Pan-African ideals remain divided by colonial-era borders and interests. Our founding fathers, like Kwame Nkrumah, warned long ago that we must unite or we will perish. Decades after the first African nations gained independence, that warning still remains even more urgent. This fragmentation is the greatest achievement by the enemy and the greatest failure by the progressives. To echo a frank observation, it reflects how colonial divide and rule strategies have lingered on. We see it in how easily external forces exploit our internal differences, whether ethnic, religious, or national, to undermine African interest. We must reverse this actively by fostering unity on all fronts. Economically, initiatives like the Africa Continental Free Trade Area need to be expedited so that African countries trade more with each other than with former colonial powers. By strengthening intra-African economic ties, we reduce dependency and build collective prosperity. We cannot shy away from African unity in the political and security sense. And when we say we should use as South Africa, Africa or our continent as our base, it means recognizing that South Africa's freedom is intertwined with Africa's freedom. The only other thing that we have, other than going upwards to Zimbabwe or to Swaziland or any of the other northern countries, is the sea. Okay? So our own survival is dependent on how we cooperate with other African countries. Tlou Cholo's generation understood this intrinsically. Many ANC cadres fought or trained alongside fellow African liberation movement, conceived our struggle as part of a broader anti-imperialist front. We must reinvigorate the Pan-African vision amongst our people, especially the youth. African unity cannot be achieved abruptly or recklessly, of course. It requires careful building of trust and institutions, and unity begins not just by mending fences. Yes, we must do this gradually, but by ultimately bringing these fences down. I know that given the current political atmosphere around it and the attitude around migration and how this has been weaponized for electoral purposes, it is unsafe to actually say that ultimately the unity of Africa lies in the in the bringing down of the border, not as a populist statement, but as a statement of intent that seeks to unite this continent. And thus, we must dismantle ultimately the artificial fences in the hearts and minds of Africans. But also, I said earlier that we need a cadre, but we also need, as we celebrate Tlou Cholo's birthday or centenary, we also need an organizer. Comrade Cholo was renowned as an organizer who could mobilize workers in a factory, villagers in the rural areas, and youth in the township with equal ease. As a trade unionist, he connected the shop floor struggles to the broader liberation movement. As an MK commissar, he motivated combatants from diverse backgrounds, and we must ask, what does an organizer of Cholo's caliber look like in the 21st century? The world has changed drastically since the days of secret meetings in the bush or mimeograph machines printing leaflets. Today's organizers operate in a society of urban megacities and remote rural villages, satellite television and smartphones, social media, and instant messages. And we've seen how the use and exploitation of this media have, in some instances, advanced and accelerated revolution, and in others have played a very regressive role towards various forms of revolutions. And so, what kind of an organizer are we talking about? A 21st century organizer who must bridge the rural and urban divide. In our country, inequality. I've asked her to check me up against time because I don't want to be the one that stands against your music. But thank you for reminding me. Firstly, a 21st century organizer must bridge the rural-urban divide. In our country, inequality often has a spatial dimension. With rural communities feeling left behind, a modern organizer needs to be as comfortable addressing a rally in a metropolitan township as convening a lekhutla under a tree in a rural village prof in Modimolle. No village or informal settlement should feel forgotten by the movement in the age of connectivity. Secondly, organizers must speak the language of the youth and the ordinary people. I could imagine it wouldn't have been easy for cadres such as Tlou Cholo to move into countries such as Botswana and various other countries such as Tanzania and also in China and the Soviet Union without having learned to acclimatize in those new conditions that they found themselves in. Organizers of today must also speak the language of the youth and the ordinary people. There must be a distinction between me speaking in the state theater under these lights and also speaking at home in Mudimule under the star lights. This is both literal and figurative. Literal in the sense of communicating in local languages and all of that, but also being able to communicate with people around you. So we must become a movement we must not become a movement that only speaks the high English of policy documents. New digital platforms can be a boon here through Twitter, Facebook, and so on and so forth. Thirdly, the modern organizer must fuse knowledge with activism, because there is nothing as useless as being grounded in theory and not being able to translate that into practice. Those who speak the grandest of theories and understand the most sophisticated and abstracts of philosophies, and yet cannot translate that into action, are not useful in taking forward our society. In essence, the 21st century cadre we seek is someone with one foot in the people's lived reality and another in an emerging digital world, which should become a true bridge. They uphold Tlou Cholo's human-centered approach, where every person, whether a learned professor or an illiterate farm worker, is treated with respect and seen as capable of contributing to change. And if we cultivate such well-rounded organizers, our movement will not only survive the new era, but thrive in it. Finally, and perhaps the most critical, we must tend to the youth. The simple truth, and by the way, Sonti, I'm no longer a youth. It's unfortunately showing in the color of my beard, which has turned very grayer in the last few 83 days, TG, with the students making me run all over with fire extinguishers. And so the simple truth is that without the youth, there is no future. Our stalwarts, like Dr. Cholo, ran their leg of the relay and passed on the baton. The question is, are the next runners ready to sprint? Right now, one could argue that young people in South Africa are the most politically and also the most economically divided sector, a situation our adversaries would celebrate, but which we must frankly fix. Our youth organizations are polarized along political lines and have not created a central theme to mobilize young people behind the future of our country. It's important to let youth leaders take charge and innovate. The energy of youth is a great asset, but with guidance so that we do not repeat past mistakes. And we should promote the renewal of leadership by bringing in fresh young voices at all levels of our structures, alongside experienced hands. And as Oliver Tambo wisely said, the children of any nation are its future, a country, a movement, a person that does not value its youth and children does not deserve its future. We need youth leaders who understand the difference between being radical and militant on the one hand, and also being ill-disciplined on the other hand, because the two are, so you can be radical and militant on the one hand and also remain disciplined. Radical and militant by challenging university leadership, for instance, around how you believe they may be intransigent, without borrowing petrol and matches to burn down a university or TVET college building. So the connection between the two is important. And to say, yeah, but we've been speaking to, so let's improve the quality of our engagement. And I think the same applies, of course, they always say to me, we burn because we're not being listened to. But fire does not open the ears of anybody. And I think that's one of the things that we need to cultivate within our youth leaders in our campuses. In practical terms, our youth organizations should champion issues that directly affect young people. education access, job creation, skills, training, social inclusion, linking them to the broader transformation agenda. When the youth see that our movement is genuinely fighting for their hope, and their hope being issues around university fee reductions, issues around internships or entrepreneurship support, and so on, they will gradually restore their confidence, not just towards the movement, but also towards government. So, investing in the youth is not optional, it is existential. And we must not invest in the youth so that we turn them into our own dummies, into a reflection of ourselves. We must invest in them so that we're able to allow them to make mistakes and to challenge the status quo, just as Tlou Cholo and his comrades did in their time as youth. In conclusion, as I said, we have to go back to basics. We have to honor, in reviewing the lessons from Dr. Tlou Theophilus Cholo's century-long journey, it becomes evident that some of the ideals of his generation have been put at risk. But they are not lost. We've diagnosed areas of weakness, drifts, strains, lapses in cadre quality, faltering African unity, inadequate adaptation of new realities, and insufficient development. But the most positive takeaway for us today is that our country has a chance to fight on. Our country has a chance to achieve that vision that Tlou Cholo and his generation has always epitomized. Over the last 30 years, we have built the foundation for that kind of a country to prosper. And so, as I've outlined some of the key things that we need to do, I believe that by undertaking these steps, we return to basics that made the liberation movement victorious in the first place. We reflect, we also in effect answer the question posed by this lecture's theme: have the lessons of the Cholo generation been betrayed? If we acknowledge our missteps and earnestly correct course as outlined, but also embrace the successes that we've made, we will ensure that we're not betrayers, but we're revolutionaries and revolutionaries in the same revolution that T.T. Cholo fought for. We ensure that the chain of struggle remains unbroken, each generation true to the last and accountable to the next. As I conclude, I want to speak directly to Tlou Cholo through his family. We heard that he could not make it. 100 Asimfana. You don't just walk around on a Saturday afternoon when you are already a centenary. So I want to say through the family representatives that we are thankful that he's still with us to witness this moment. Realeboha Re Chulo. We thank you, Comrade Chulo, for your sacrifices and for your teachings. You have run your race with distinction. We salute your 100 years for an extraordinary life, and our birthday gift to you and to all your peers who sacrificed so much must be our commitment to reinvigorate the cause you hold dear. We must show that the ideals of your generation will live on in our actions. The power is indeed still with the people. Let us go forward together and ensure that South Africa's tomorrow shine brighter in the careful hands of those who remember yesterday's lessons. And in doing so, we will have truly honored the towering legacy of Tlou Theophilus Cholo and his generation. May we be worth it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for that powerful address. And may I kindly request that you do not descend the stage at this time. I'm sure that our audience has many questions that they would like to engage you on. And may I please invite Dr. Marcia Libambo to facilitate the Q&A session. And ladies and gentlemen, may I please request that you do not leave, because there is a beautiful Fatherland musical that has been organized for us. So ungahambi kusazoba mnandi. Dr. Libambo, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Program Director. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to waste time because this is another important segment of our gathering today. Just want to acknowledge, obviously, the family and as well as the Honorable Minister, the Vice Chancellor of the biggest university of technology in Africa, the People's University, Professor Dinyuko Maluleke, and of course, the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Professor Maserumli. And all protocol observed, ladies and gentlemen, we are now on the Q&A session. I don't want to waste time because I want to give you an opportunity to engage with the minister. And Professor Maserumula, I might not have an opportunity to ask the minister directly, so probably need to be the first person to ask a question. I'm taking that opportunity to do so. Honorable Minister, I probably want to start with the latter part of your speech. You talk about calling for action of people you call the 21st century organizers, and you define them as organizers that bridge the rural and urban divide, speak the language of the youth, promote entrepreneurship, development and support, invest in the youth, because without the youth, there is no future. Perhaps let me start with the latter part of your speech by just reflecting on something very dear to South Africa, which is entrepreneurship development. It's quite saddening, Honorable Minister, that we hear reports from organizations such as the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, that is the GEM. GEM reports that South Africans' entrepreneurship activity remains very low compared to other countries, particularly youth entrepreneurship activity. It's quite puzzling that we've got a lot of entrepreneurship development support as a country, coming from policies, capacity development institutions. We can name them from the DTI, NYDA. Even our policy is for entrepreneurship. Yet the entrepreneurship activity level among young people, particularly those are in rural and township area, remain low. In fact, it's quite disheartening to learn, Honorable Minister, that we are the third lowest country out of 49 in terms of entrepreneurship activity. And yet we say to solve the problem of youth unemployment is if we invest in entrepreneurship development. So there is that disconnect between the level of investment and the output. Perhaps I can maybe ask you the first question to say, what do you think seem to be the problem for us as a country, where we are investing so much in terms of money, resources, and support to support young people to be self-sustainable, to start businesses, yet that support is not giving us the entrepreneurship activity level that we are expecting as a country? Whilst he comes, I'm going to ask a question, he comes on stage. As he answers, I'm going to kindly ask that you start thinking about questions that you're going to ask the minister. I just wanted to take an opportunity because I might never get an opportunity to ask. The mice will be roaming around. The gentleman, Stembi Sositole, is here, over there. So if you have a question for the minister, I'm going to kindly ask that you raise your hand. We are going to note you for the first round, and then we'll continue with that. Whilst you sort yourself out with questions, I'm going to kindly ask the Honorable Minister to perhaps come to the podium to answer the first question.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be interesting to, I think, get deeper into that report on global entrepreneurship. But for entrepreneurship to succeed, we need to create conditions for such entrepreneurship, meaning that we have to be intentional about creating an ecosystem for entrepreneurship. It's not just about someone graduating, which I think is partly part of the problem, that we encourage students to graduate first, before they pursue entrepreneurship. And there are various organizations and institutions and platforms in our universities whose intention are to support entrepreneurship. And in fact, just this week at UNISA, we had it's the entrepreneurship development structure that's organized in universities, which was meeting. And so that's the first thing, that we have to be intentional. The second thing is that we have extremely low level of research and development in our country. And consequently, we will have an extremely low level of innovation because entrepreneurs sell goods and services. Okay? And then thirdly, I think we've encouraged, or that the state has become the primary source of business. Yes, certain entrepreneurs, thrive in the private sector, but predominantly the state has become. And so, how we create, the state as a platform to support entrepreneurship, is going to be crucial. So, I think we need to address all of those factors. We have to be intentional. We have to support research and development that leads to innovation, and ultimately that support entrepreneurship. But also we have to create various platforms, of entrepreneurship. In fact, some of the entrepreneurs who depend on the state are basically providing services which ideally should be insourced, by the state. If we look at, the most recent country that I think has thrived by supporting small enterprises, both India and China, it is because there's something that entrepreneurs have to sell. It can be a product, a tangible product, or it could be, a service. And finally, I think some few years ago, the Department of Science and Innovation, together with the Center for, the CSIR, conducted a study to look at what happens to innovations and, and IPs that comes out of our own universities. I know TUT, have built that connection between what students create at an idea level and connecting those with commercialization. It may be at a small scale, but that's where we need to link, we need to create the connection. And I think we should also not think of entrepreneurship as just those students who are studying economics or the business sciences and so on, that it has to cut across. If you're studying plumbing, you have to sell that service. Because otherwise we train you to go and become an employee. And similarly, with humanities, if you're not getting employment in the public service, you could provide whatever service that you've been trained for, in community organizations, in the private sector, and so on, without necessarily being, an employee. So, so I think, there's people who I think have, done more research and knowledge on this, and who know how to take forward some of this. And I could sense from your question that you are one of those who are very knowledgeable on this subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that answer. I just wanted to take that opportunity to ask first. I might not get an opportunity. I see young people. I'm sure they are quite excited and to ask questions to the ministers. Tembiso, we are noting. We're going to start on our left. The first. Okay. Question.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
My name is Sullivan Mpahlele. I'll use the name Sullivan, but my actual name is Namedi Mpahlele. Maybe before I pose the question, I should say thank you to the Tlou Cholo Foundation for having organized this momentous occasion. Thanks, I guess all the honorable members, they have been welcome, but thanks for having made the time. I'll go straight to the point. About 35 years ago, I was doing my postgraduate. Unfortunately, I'm not youth. And I had to write a paper on the nature of school guidance in a traditionally repressive Calvinistic perspective. The effects of that paper is still so relevant today that, with due respect, Mr. Minister, our education, I'm not sure where does it leave us. In 1990, I also joined the fraternity, and I also did my higher education diploma, so I'm part of the problem, if there is what we call a problem. The number of graduates, Professor Maluleka, are increasing on an annual basis. On the other hand, the economy is not growing. Unemployment is currently sitting at about 32.2%. The population is sitting at about 63 million people. Only about 17 million people are in active employment. And out of the 17 million people, about 7 million people are unemployed. There is a fundamental problem in our country. Youth unemployment is very high. Question is, what is the relevance of our education in growing the economy to address unemployment, to address economic growth? Thank you.
I think maybe we can note them so that you don't. Ladies and gentlemen, with your permission, I kindly request that perhaps the minister can note the first round of question to avoid him sitting and standing to answer. This was the first question, so we will move to the second. Hopefully one.
Greetings to everyone. My name is Bonisiwe Nxumalo, a student in a master's student in the Department of Applied Languages. And the question that I have can be directed to the Honorable Minister and Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa. How does the Dr. Tlou legacy measure success in terms of its leadership? Is it through the things that you guys have achieved, or in how effective they develop and pass on their vision, knowledge, and leadership skills to the next generation? And the follow-up question is, what is the succession plan to ensure a lasting legacy? Thank you.
Thank you. So we have the third question.
Greetings. My name is Khadi Maubane. Honorable Minister, as I was listening to the presentation, it reminds us of the generation and the generation that was led with integrity, conviction, and discipline. Yet today, Honorable Minister, it feels as though that day by day, we are losing such leaders. How do we ensure that we are cultivating leaders of the same moral, caliber, and courage in our time? Specifically in the education space, what is our role in shaping the next generation of leaders who are radical in thought, militant, and disciplined? Like you said, do we truly have the next runners? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sembiso, how are we doing with the first round of questions, the last question? Minister, the audience is prepared. Everyone is reading from their phone. Yes, ma'am.
Greetings, Minister, the rest of the leadership, friends of the Dr. Cholo Foundation. My name is Ontlametsi. Thank you very much for the lecture, Minister. I'm so happy and fortunate to actually be attending this lecture with my mom. So going back to the question of, do we need cadres? Next to me is my mom, who's served in the branch, who's also been the chairperson of the Women's League, who also paid for my youth membership until I even had interest in it and took my FERAP leave. Minister, when I think of the leadership that I've had close proximity to, there are certain keywords that come to mind: good morals, ethics, some of the constitution that they subscribe to, very God-fearing. Minister, looking at the current state of our leadership, I've got my different views around it, and I think so does everyone else in this room. But my question is very simple. Do you think that we do have a leadership crisis? What we see on social media in terms of the youth engaging around politics and what we see on the voting stations are totally different things. How do we encourage the young people looking at the current status of our leadership?
Okay, over to you, Honorable Minister, with the first round of questions.
All right. I'm going to try and be quick. I think Mr. Mpatlele, the question of do we stop training because the economy is not growing, or how does education contribute to growth? Firstly, I think that there is a I don't want to sound like I'm bragging like you did, but this is what I studied, at university. The connection between how productive our labor is and economic growth. And I think over the years, there's been a strong link between the economy growing and sustainable employment. And it is at the point when the economy dips that we've seen massive job losses. And as is the case now, our economy has not been grown as per the projections, and thus we haven't met some of the growth targets. And so we have seen growing graduate unemployment. And so we need to ask our questions, what do we do? Obviously, we don't stop training because the economy has stopped growing. But what sort of interventions should we make? And so what we said as government was that firstly, we have to ensure that our education system helps to respond to the jobs market. So our skills have to be linked to what jobs are available. So we want to redirect some of our academic programs towards that. Secondly, we have to redirect our resources towards TVET colleges and community colleges, which can easily be linked to direct employment post-graduation. This is not to undervalue the academic stream, but we have underinvested in terms of our vocational education and training, and thus we have smaller TVETs and even smaller community colleges. We have to improve the quality of training and link that training to workplaces. I think for years we have overemphasized public institutions as platform for training, but I think industry has to come into play. If it means going into every district, looking at every employment opportunities that is available, and directing our academic and vocational institutions to train based on the availability, I think let's do that. So we've got to improve, at that level and make sure that we train people for skills that are available. So your 35-year-old masters is not valueless because the problems of the economy remains consistent, especially if the economic system has remained the same, in those years. And then the second question around how do the leadership of Tlou Cholo and their generation measure success? Yes, they obviously would measure the success in whether they've successfully transferred their vision into the or rather the current generation interprets their vision consistent with what they have stood for. I remember we had a very intense discussion in Parliament and elsewhere, and I know some, may be tempted to repeat this, that Mandela sold out,